Hi, I'd like to shout out CBRX channel on YouTube. I'm a very recent subscriber and I really like what he does. He does kind of in-depth, quite scientific reviews of a lot of the modern offerings in the pocket knife and fixed blade world. And I got into it with him in the comments section a little bit, and he's a good sport. So I was watching one of his videos today, and he mentioned that he likes to travel and he likes to have an EDC option when he gets on the plane. So I asked in the comments whether he tends to carry checked-in luggage as well, or usually just goes carry-on. And he said, yeah, he usually takes check-in as well. And then when he gets to his destination, he will go straight out and buy a load of knives and carry them back with him in his checked-in luggage or mail them to himself. I'm like, cool, well, this guy might just be interested in this little project. I've got some videos about it already, but I have a little bit of progress to report. So let's look at the story. I got myself one of these Leathermans. Mine's actually here on my belt. Well, I get the one out on my belt. And so I got this thing. It's very expensive, right? And I hail from the UK originally. I was born and raised in Scotland. I spent some time down south as well. And so you have these knife laws there that don't permit you to carry a locking blade. And I thought, wow, what a shame, right? If I go back to the UK, I would want to take this with me because it's good to have a nice multi-tool when you're traveling. But I wouldn't be able to carry this on the street because it's got a locking blade. However, since it's all bolted together and disassemblable, I removed the original blade and I built it into this prototype friction folder. My thinking being, now I can go to the UK and I can carry this on my belt because it doesn't have a locking blade, counter to requirements, just got scissors and files and whatever you might need. But there's no locking blade, so there's no legal or legislative issue with carrying this. And so I made this prototype and bunged the blade in there, because also if I would then be able to carry this in my pocket along with this on my belt in the UK and effectively have the full Leatherman arc accessible, UK legal, and in other such pathetic nanny state jurisdictions. So what am I saying now? So the next thing I made a little video about this, and a kind commenter suggested go to zapwizard.com. They've got a comb that you can put in. So now I have a comb instead of a blade. Right? That's kind of cool. So the whole thing still lines up. It's not rattling like this one is because I also removed the blade. Whoops. So obviously if you just remove the blade, you end up with a gap in there. You can still use it, but it's a little wiggly. You could just bung a washer in there or whatever. So I was on the lookout for the right washer or something. Guy told me about the comb. Great, so that's that. That was cool. So the next thing I did was contact a local machine shop, and they gave me some help and advice. We had a meeting, and they sent me off to some people that do 3D scanning. Now, in the end, actually, we didn't do a 3D scan. Right, because, what I need is to make this, but so that it doesn't break. So this part here, this tang augmentation is what I'm calling it, should not really be made out of plywood. It should be made out of heat-treated steel of, I think, presumably slightly less hardness than the blade steel, but comparable, same ballpark. And so I went to this place, and they didn't use a 3D printer in the end. They just took the blade. I went there, we had the meeting, and while I was there, he took the blade stuck a ruler next to it in the photocopier and photocopied it, because this dimension is a single thickness that you can take with calipers, right? And the 3D scanner that they have is incredibly expensive to use, and because of all of the engineering time and this and that, and also would struggle to get something this thin, apparently. So I have yet to actually take possession of the CAD file that they have made for me, but I asked if they would make me, just print me one in plastic, because they do the 3D printing there, to test the fit. Goofy. Oh, let's go in this way. So yeah, I'm very pleased with that. Now this is plastic, and so if I have the same piece made in steel, who knows whether it'll be the same fit. But if it fits like that and lines up and everything, because this is a rough edition, right? Just to give me the idea. But yeah, the next thing I would do is have a billet of steel made with this. You know, this should come up to here. And then I can make this part by hand. You know, I can work it out by hand and build a good one of that platform, right? And then when I'm happy with that, all of those pieces can once again be scanned and put into CAD, and I can have as many of these made as I want. So basically what it'll be is this minus the blade. And so if you are flying TSA, you can have one of these. You know, you can put your Zap Wizard comb in there or whatever you want. And you're allowed to fly with this. In the UK and Europe, you're not allowed to fly. I'm not sure about all of Europe, but in the UK, you're not allowed to fly with any kind of personal tool. Personal tool, they call it. Anything whatsoever. A screwdriver for your glasses. Illegal, right? But in the US, you're allowed to fly with a multi-tool that doesn't have a blade on it. You know, they can have scissors that are below whatever. These scissors, I mean, this, you can absolutely TSA friendly right now, this one with the comb and no blade. And so this, you know, good version of, which is all screwed together, could go in your carry-on luggage. And then when you get to your destination, you could take the blade out, put it back in your multi-tool, and put your comb in here and have a little friction folding comb, you know, put your bottle opener in there or whatever. Later, I thought, well, it'd be kind of cool to make a different blade, you know, make other things apart from a comb. You can make any number of tools that you could put into one of these or into one of these. Maybe you could also put more than one into one of these, start stacking them out, you know. And so here in this box, I also have because this thing looks so chintzy. So when I go to the meetings to kind of help give people the idea, I carry one of these with me, which is this EOS Urchin. And I bought a few of these because I got one, and aside from some issues with it, I'll take a look at this just quickly. I mean, I've talked through the whole thing, you know, I've said enough about all of that, right? But let's have a look at this little friction folder. And my personal one, which is sitting here on the floor. So yeah, I got one of these and I was like, well, they said it's a Wharncliffe, and it's not really a Wharncliffe because of all this extra angularity here that very clearly denies this blade Wharncliffe status, although it has the straight edge, you know, okay, yes. Yeah, modified Wharncliffe, yeah, okay, you could say that, right? Because we took the essential curved form, squished it that way, cut a bit out, and put a hole there. Yes. But anyway, I said, and so in the use as well, I found that because you have this finger choil here, which is smart, it's functional when you have a friction folder to have this index choil here. But if you then have a thumb ramp here, that's not ergonomic. So the thumb ramp works with this, but then if you're pressing on the thumb ramp, you're pushing the blade forward. So, and if you're here and then you put your thumb further forward, you still tend to push it forwards. Moreover, there's a swedge here, so that's not comfortable on your thumb. They called it a Warncliffe, and it wasn't, and it's a little over 3 inches, and I wanted it to be, again, UK legal carry. And one more thing about this is how it came from the factory. Yeah, pathetic. Not even, they didn't even really make an effort. I mean, they're just an, I mean, actually, funnily, that feels as if it would cut something, but force your way through. Yeah, piece of crap edge, but amazing. I think the steel's really good. Hey, that reminds me, I wanted to do something, just for the record. Now, Mr. CBRX has some very, very good equipment for testing hardness. But what I have is, you know, this stuff whereby we can get a glimmer of the glutzes, as my mama would say. So let's see whether we can ruin my nice semi-complete satin finish that I put on this. No, skating. You know what? This is bringing back memories. I reckon I've done that before. So there you go. Skating. Skating. And I think that the deal is that this should be beginning to bite around there. So, I mean, this is why I think the way that CBRX is set up is pretty cool, you know, because sometimes I'm a little skeptical about this file. Not the whole set, but I just wonder whether this one, because that would seem very high, wouldn't it? 64 to 66 or higher for Nitro V. Anyway, what it is very good. Really excellent. This is an excellent knife. I think that this is the, if you want actual performance in a, what, you know, you would have to call a UK legal carry package, it's not going to get better than this. Because for security, you have more security than you would with a slip joint. Because you have this control here of what's going on here. It can get uncomfortable, it can get cramped, might even nick you, but it's not going to shut on your hand. Next thing, about as wide as would be reasonable for a 3-inch blade. Very sharp point. Basically a full convex, tiny micro bevel on there now. This thing, I mean, I don't know how. Sure, I had something cut while we were lying around. What's this? Business card. I respect the small businesses, not slice their cards up just for fun. Aha! Here we go. Telling you. Thanks for watching.